How's it going, everybody? And welcome to the first episode of 2025 of the One Last Cast podcast. My name is Jonathan, and as always, we have Meryl Selesky here. Say hi, Meryl.
Yo, how's it going, guys?
Well, like I said, this is our first episode of 2025. Meryl, can you believe it's season 5? So we've done this for 5 years. How does that make you feel?
Really? 5 years?
I think so.
Jeez, that's crazy. Man, it hasn't even felt like it. I feel
Yeah,
like
it
we still
definitely
have a
has.
lot to say about fishing.
Oh yeah.
uh,
And actually, it's not even we have a lot to say. We're still learning. We're learning
yeah,
a
that's
lot,
true.
and it's been a great journey. And I'm glad to share it with everybody who's listening. Which, by the way, we are live every other Tuesday at now at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you can join us at facebook.com/one last cast podcast. Or also, we're on YouTube and Twitch as well. So we know I have a couple people who pop up on there as well. So if you want to join us live and talk fishing with us, we love y'all guys on chat and love answering your questions. So feel free to hop on by. Before we get into today's episode, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Knock and Tail Lures. If you're looking for one of the best soft plastics, I think, to help you catch trout, redfish, and flounder, go to knockandtaillures.com. Michael has come out with some great stuff, the Knock and Tail Shrimp. Uh, he introduced that at the Houston Fishing Show, which had happened this past weekend. Also, some new the plastics that he has is now using TPE plastic, so it's going to be a lot more durable. That's awesome. Also, the knock and cork, which is his popping cork concept, and apparently there's other few ideas swimming around his head that will be introduced soon, or maybe not soon, but in the future. So he's always innovating. Glad to talk to you, Michael. I know he pops up on our podcast as well. So good talking to you at the show. So yeah, if you're looking for some great soft plastics, check them out. Also, 4A Printing. Aaron does really good work with some custom gear that we order from him, such as these towels. This is old logo, but some towels, as well as shirts and other stuff. So if you're looking for stuff something like that, go to 4A Printing, search him up on Facebook, and reach out to him as well. Also, at Dirty South Kayak Anglers, if you're looking for a Facebook group to talk kayaking and fishing up and down the Texas coast, reach out to or search DSK or Dirty South Kayak Anglers, and you'll find that great group there. And of course, Brittany Selesky, Meryl's lovely wife. If you're looking for real estate, either commercial or residential here in Houston, Texas, give her a shout at 281-740-0498 or brittanyselesky@gmail.com. So, you missed a lot at the fishing show. There's just so much stuff that went on.
Thank you for. I haven't missed a fishing show since 2014. So
Nice.
this was my first one missing. So what's 10 years?
Yeah, something like that. A little over 10. Yeah, around 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
yeah. This would be the yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I missed out a lot. I was sad that I had obligations and things I had to do. I'm just so used to being a presence at the fishing show on the weekend of seeing people that make it there every year, shooting the breeze with them, talk fishing, and see what's coming up and what's new. I guess maybe you could share that with us here in a little bit, what you've seen at the fishing show, what you're looking forward to, and changes and stuff. But fishing show, boat show, those are always the things I like going to.
I will say that while I was at the fishing show, I was there on Friday, probably half the day on Friday. Everybody asked me, "Where's Meryl?" And they looked so disappointed that I told them that you wouldn't be there this year. So,
I'm so sorry, guys. Uh,
uh,
yep, yep.
but yeah, I did. Yeah, the fishing show was great. Like I said, I talked to Michael, and he had his his shrimp product that's coming out. Expected to launch sometime in spring. Also, the TPE plastic that he has with basically his knock and tail soft plastic now comes in a TPE form. That's exciting. That durability is great because that I think that helps with in terms of like the cost benefit of the lure of the soft plastic, and of course his popping cork that I would mention as well. Really solid. It looks heavy duty, and Yeah, interested to
Look forward
see.
how it
Go
works
ahead.
up against the grass line.
Yeah,
We work
basically.
that bad boy up against
Yeah,
that with that shrimp, the knocking tail
exactly.
shrimp. I'm
Yeah,
like, really, that's gonna be a really good combination because then you get the cork to attract its attention, and then you got the shrimp going like that with the little clicking noise, so that it's like double the attention right there. And then watching that shrimp glide,
yeah,
and then when it, yeah, that's gonna be, yeah, that's gonna be exciting.
yeah. And I know he's thinking about offering the shrimp in a without the rattle. And I didn't tell him, but I think he should offer it without the rattle, just because some, especially if you pair it with the cork, that may be a little bit too loud, just like a little bit too much going on. But also, I do find, especially during the winter now, some of the subtler presentations have been working a lot better for me. So
Mm,
maybe something without that loud rattle to to get them to strike. But that's just me. So, but
yeah.
yeah, I was walking around. I was walking around the show, um, and there's just a lot of up and coming, you know, lures and jig head makers, um, and
Anything exciting coming up with jig heads?
no, I was talking to Jorge. I believe that was Jorge with Razor. Was it Salty Head? Not, yeah, Salty Head.
Salt head. Yeah.
Yeah, Salt Head, and he,
Yeah.
explaining the difference between the Pro Series and the regular version. Uh, and I was talking to Daniel, who was there, and he was basically just explaining how with the Pro Series he could boat flip lower bull reds, off onto the boat. And I've seen videos of him doing that. Yeah, so I
Daniel
believe
how do you
Duong.
say his name? Duong. Okay,
Yeah,
I don't want to butcher it.
yeah,
Man,
yeah,
I've really seen him like develop as a fisherman. Has been one of my pleasures is watching him compete in the tournament series. I definitely follow him.
yeah.
But from where he started to where he is at now, he's progressed so much, and like he's like definitely a name to look for in the tournament series, Redfish series. But that's been pretty cool watching these guys like from their early tournament careers to where they're at now.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and if you want to give him a follow, he's at DD Fishing on TikTok, and at Daniel underscore D underscore fishing on Instagram. So yeah, search up Daniel Duong, and he is just a great creator and good steward to overall fishing out there. But yeah, I kind of wanted to get into. I know we could basically talk fishing show all day, but with the meat and potatoes here before we get into King Ranch, which a couple weeks ago I know you had a trip out there. I want to talk about that. I did want to kind of go through. I recently fished the West End Anglers trout tournament this past weekend, and it was brutal. That win
mhm,
was no joke, and I was kind of outclassed. I think early in the morning, Jay Lee, who I fish with a lot, we had a shot in the morning. We just it was kind of we were it was a shot in the dark, and it just didn't go well. So basically, we were facing probably sustained 20-25 mile an hour winds, gusting, and it was increasing through the day, gusting 30, 35, 40 miles an hour. It was in a kayak. We were fishing from our kayaks, and this is a boat tournament. We were kind of limited to what we could do. We made the most of it. I wanted to fish this tournament series for a while, and they use a video submission as a way for to go against the where you can't take any trout over 20 inches. So everybody has a calibrated scale that you get calibrated during the captain's meeting, and then basically whenever you submit your fish, the way you do is you take a video of it, you say a code word, you zero it out, weigh the fish, look at the weight, say the weight, and then release the fish. And if you do all those things, that counts towards your total for your three fish, quote unquote stringer. Um, and it was a good fishing day for us. Like we caught lots of fish, just not the fish that we wanted and needed. In the morning, my first fish, it was a 4 pounder. Got it next to the kayak, lost it, and I kind of summed up the day for me. Uh, After that, it was just a bunch of like 15 to 17 inch fish. We weighed, officially. Well, actually, it's not actually even official because we ended up not going to the weigh-in. But officially, we weighed like a 289 and like a 145, and afterwards, it was just we were just catching fish, and none of them looked way worthy. Um, and eventually, that wind just got so bad that we were just expending more energy fighting it than actually like trying to fish. So we kind of didn't play that card right because there's probably better areas for us that we could have hit that would have protected us. But it was a good experience. The motors got to work out, just trying to keep up with everything, and but yeah, it was just that experience. So
I know somebody that's fished that tournament, and they actually won that tournament, first place, several years back. But
yeah, the weights in the top 3 or 4 or 5 were impressive.
oh, what were
Um,
they?
so I believe winning weight was around 15 pounds for three
That is
fish.
impressive.
Or it was something like that. Though the winners they got, I know first place they got obviously got first place. Also got big trout because they got like an 8 pounder. So
Yeah, they're
um,
on the shoreline somewhere, just wade fishing with the wind at
yeah,
their back. You know,
exactly.
a little bit of an
Yeah,
advantage.
we
Um,
yeah we and of course I hopped out and waited too, but it was just I wasn't in the right area to do that.
mm.
Um, Probably
I
I don't even know if there'll be a next time for that, just because I kind of need to hone in that craft a little bit more before I want to contribute to the pot again.
so would you recommend like Snake Island maybe for that area where it drops off into the gut?
Uh,
Would that be a good spot to you think you I mean, ideally what would you have done different, like the conditions, cuz I know those thoughts cross your mind after the tournament. You're like, or during the tournament I should have done this. But you never know. Sometimes you stay in that area because you're like, either I'm committed or you're like, I have a feeling, I have a hunch, and sometimes it doesn't pay out.
yeah.
So,
So the area that we were fishing, it was um, it. Unfortunately, one thing that went against us is it got warm, and the area that we fish it needs to be cold. Water temps were like at 68 degrees, which is pretty warm. Um, and typically around that area, you're looking at probably low 60s to below that. And it would be fire, and I would definitely fish that area if those were the conditions. But the past couple days, it gotten warm, and we didn't pre-fish, which is kind of on our fault that we didn't do that. Just other obligations. But looking back at it, probably just because it was a pretty stiff south wind. The south shoreline was something that we were looking at. Um, even in the day, I had a like, is it worth for us to drive all the way down there just to go fish the south shoreline? But by the time we did that and got out there, we would have just eaten up so much time. Um, though the weigh-in was actually at CIO, I believe, so it would have been okay. Uh, yeah, the South Shoreline. Uh, we were looking basically anywhere on the South Shoreline of Galveston, all the way over to Freeport, within the boundaries. We were looking at, I was thinking, Christmas Bay. There's some areas over there that we could have hopped down, and waded. That South Shoreline of Galveston. Um, there's some areas in the Upper Bay that would have been protected, but literally those would have been Hail Marys because by the time you got back again, by the time you got out there, you'd be fishing for like an hour, and then you have to go back to the weigh-in. So, um, yeah, it was just a learning experience and all good.
yeah, that's cool. What bait did you throw, and why?
Oh. So I wish I had it with me because I don't have it with me. Um, I actually picked something up at the fishing show. It's a I cannot remember the name of the bait company, but anyways, they had a split tail fluke that was like 6 inches. This giant.
Oh, so like the old TK2, the Trout Killer 2, the
No, no,
old
it's
school. Was it
the
like
fork
that?
the fork tail, not the split tail, the fork tail.
What's the difference?
It has a so instead of like it has
Oh,
too long at the very
right.
end, it has that little split at the end.
Oh, okay.
I wish I had it with me. It's in the garage, but
So that's not like the Trout Killer 2 now.
yeah, they actually
That's
had
more like a bass lure.
yeah, no, it's a freshwater lure. The they were selling stuff for like Cincos and um other bass rigs, but the reason why I wanted that is because it was such a large profile. And I was mainly fishing that because this area I've been fishing, and then before we launched, we were talking before this winter, I've been actually using a lot of the straight tail profiles because the fish have been wanting that subtle profile. They don't want. I've been trying to get them on that on the knocking tail, and it just it I catch fish on it, but I'm catching more on the more darting subtle action than that loud paddle tail. So yeah, I've been using those and they were hammering it. Um, and it's neutrally buoyant, so it it was kind of floating. I was kind of thinking about I part of me was like maybe I should like Carolina rig this, because it would just float. But anyways, yeah, I was using that. The other reason why I was using it because it was a 6 inch, large profile. I was hoping to get some of those bigger bites. It didn't really help because all these 15, 17 inch trout started annihilating it. but but yeah, that's mainly that's what I was throwing. Jay, as the day went on, he started throwing more of like the kind of shrimp profiles, and they were starting to hit those when it slowed down. But I kept plugging away with that.
I know that feeling.
Yeah,
So, I mean, like big trout, it's like very like it's not like one size fits all, right? So
yeah.
it's always like different weather, different patterns, different structures. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you're targeting them. Um, what made you target the area you're fishing?
It's just history. I've caught big trout over here before. This year, I've gotten a six, um, definitely fours, a couple fives. So they were. I know they're in the area. Historically, the biggest trout I caught out of here is probably around like 7.5 pounds. Uh, but the common denominator with all those catches, it was cold.
Mm,
Um, so it's basically like a mud shell mix that kind of drops off into a deep channel. We'll be fishing to shallow areas. Occasionally, you if you catch it right, you can catch them on that drop off, but mainly they'll be stacked up shallow. Um, Literally all those fish I caught, they would be up against that grass line.
mm,
So actually, most of them I would say literally hits the water, you get hammered, and you set the hook. And there's some nice redfish in this area, so you think it's a redfish at first, and it turns out to be these nice trout. So yeah, that's really the reason why. Um, we've done massive stringers out of there. You know, averaging 3-4 pounds. So there's big trout in this area. It uh, didn't work out. And Curtis, I will not be out there tomorrow. I have other obligations. So yeah,
growing up sucks.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the issues you had were the same issues that I had on my fishing journey. Uh, and so, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go into like
No, no, no.
what
That
we
was
did.
such a good. You just ruined it. It was a good segue. You should have just kept going.
Oh, okay, cool. So we don't rehearse this. You're actually getting the live. Anyways, so we were eager to fish with Colton Blackwell, and he's like a well-known tournament trout fisherman. And if you don't know, if this is like your first episode listening to, what I try to do is fish with well-known guides and explain what I've learned from these guys, and what they did different. And I can tell you, not one single guide I've been with fishes this exact same way as another guide. They all fish different. They all have their own way of fishing for stuff. Um, and so Colton Blackwell was on the list, and I think we got Brian. Oh, I'll have to go to that later. Brian Barrera. I booked Brian Barrera for tarpon fishing, so and snook fishing. So we'll see how that goes, and that's down Texas coast. But for this trip, we wanted to focus on catching trout, see what he does, how he does his things. Um, he's more like gun style. I would say gunner style. Like I've never fished with anybody like this, and I say gunner style because it's like you feel like you're fishing a tournament with this guy. And so we get on the boat, right, and we're circling. We're going to spot A, and then he's like, "Oh shit, we're passing up fish." And this guy, like when he's driving on his boat, and he's actually looking for fish on the water as he's passing them. And he's like, okay, we'll hit the spot on the way back. We saw some fish. And for trout fishing, it's like you kind of know where some of the structures at underwater and how they are. You don't literally see them on the flat and you're spooking them, right? And this dude's like circling around these, I say flats, but they're like 2, 3, 4 feet, whatever. Um, and he's like, he visually sees them and he's like, we're coming back to this spot, but let's go check out this other spot. So we went to this other spot, and it's a spot I've already known. I fished as a kid. Me and my dad used to fish there, but we fished there for winters. This weather was the day after the cold snap, so the water's still cold as shit. Um, I don't remember the degree of temperature the water is. I'm guessing like in the 30s or 40s. It was real low, so the water's still cold. It's right after the cold snap, a day after the cold snap.
The
Uh,
air temperature was in the 30s, 40s, not the water though.
the water was pretty cold because it was like 2, 3 days of cold weather.
Okay.
Um, so I think the thing is, trout, like, they tend to die at a certain, or they get slow and lethargic at a certain degree of temperature and water on shallow waters, right? But if they have a deep area to run to and come back when the water warms up, they will to feed. And anyways, so let me keep going with the story. So we get to this spot and we're fishing, and I see the guys across from us, and I watch what they were doing, and we're figuring out the pattern, stretching out, and I was like, these guys are fishing the deeper part of the water, and I'm gonna do that. And they were throwing a little lure, like a small, like 1 to 2 inch lure. I have a 6 inch bait on, but I have a quarter-ounce jig head. So I was like, well, I'm gonna keep fishing because in my mind, I'm thinking it doesn't matter what kind of fucking lure I have. Oh, sorry, I don't mean because I don't mean it doesn't matter what kind of lure I have on, but when I throw it out there, something's gonna hit it if I present it right. And I did, and they hit it. Boom, got one. So I was the first one to get a trout. So I got a trout, brought it in, and then I said, hey guys, they're over here. We need to fish this deeper part. The guy knew exactly what to do after I hit that one. He zoomed in, honed in, and he just started yanking them in. So then we all started just catching them. And then in my mind, I was like, man, I should use a lighter jig head. But when I was on the boat, I threw the fat boy probably once or twice, and I was like, let me try something else. So I went back and put on a 6 inch jig head. I think it was one of his lures. I think it's called Coastal something. Don't have the name of it, but he makes those Coastal Brew Baits.
Mm.
That's what I think it's called. And I had that on with a quarter-ounce jig head. So I was able to zip it out there pretty far too as well. And I think the wind's pumping about, I want to say 10 to 15 miles an hour. Um, So we're working this area, we're catching fish. We get back to the boat. I was like, man, I caught some fish, probably, but I felt like I missed a lot. And what I mean by I felt like I missed a lot is when I threw it out there, I felt the thump, and by the time I reeled down to set the hook, he was already off. So I'm feeling like if the bait, like if they're hitting it, they're not committing to it, but they're there, right? So I maybe caught like a handful of trout at that spot. And then we go to the spot that he saw. We circled back. We went there and we caught. I think we didn't catch a lot of trout there. I caught one that was like it was a bad picture because it was the same size trout that somebody else caught, but I did it at a different angle and it looked huge. And the angle that I got, it looked like a little 22 incher, and it was over slot. So we put it up against the thing. It was an over slot trout, but when you look at the picture, it looks like a 22-inch trout. Um, but we caught that one trout, and then we caught a couple reds and some drum. We were just catching these big old drums on lures there. Uh, but uh, but uh, but the thing was, we were working our way around a flat, and the way those were is wherever there was grass patches and there was pockets. These the bigger fish like to swim in between the pockets of grass, and we were able to catch those fish. The big trout that I caught, well, I call it big. Um, he was actually nowhere near any grass patches. He was just swimming in the dirty, murky water where it was clean and murky, and he was swimming in between like that. And I saw him swirl, and I think I looked over to Juan, and I was like, Juan, there's one right here. Like, and then I told my other buddy, Thad, look, dude, I saw a blow up that way, like throw that way. And sure enough, first cast he throws that way, boom, he hooks a big old redfish. Huge slide. I think it was like a 26 and a half or whatever, but it was just, I think it was 8 pounds or something like that, somewhere around that. So we caught that redfish. Then I caught the trout, and then we caught a couple more redfish. We caught big old black drum. Um, then we went down to the North Shoreline, and it was getting closer. So this guy, he loves to fish, so it's not like, hey, time's up, like we gotta go. He was like, hey man, y'all go down, y'all down to go check out another spot, and we're like, heck yeah, man, like let's do this. We're already here. So I like guys like that love to fish. And I guess because he wasn't watching over us, we all knew how to throw a bait caster. We all know how to take care of ourselves. One thing I did is when I got back to the boat before we went to the second spot, I was trying to look for a jig head, but I found this weird one, right? So it was a jig head, but instead of having an eye of a loop, the loop was inside the jig head. And for some reason, I did a loop knot because when you do a loop knot with those bait, it kind of does a darting action, right? And this one,
it gives it more play for them to
yeah,
kind of dart around.
yeah. And I wanted to see how that was gonna do, and I think that one was 1/8 of an ounce, but I was really wanting a 1/16 of an ounce. But I was like, same thing in my mind. I'm thinking, trout's gonna hit it. They're gonna bite it. So so it is what it is. So I threw that out there. The guy, once again, catching the crap out of fish. And then I'm thinking like for me, it was like I'm usually the guy that's catching the crap out of fish, but I knew I was too lazy to change my jig head, to change my presentation. I was just stuck in my own ways. Same trip when I went with Jonathan, I just stuck to my own ways. I know I caught fish, but I knew if I would have changed my presentation, I would have yielded more fish. But I stuck to that. We go to another spot. We roll up on the way to the final spot, and he busts a 6 pounder, same size that I caught, but we get a better angle of his fish because I take the picture. So we catch a 6 pounder, and then we go to the final spot. And what made this spot unique is he knew exactly how it was going to pan out. He's like, we just did all this. This is the main event here. We're pulling up to the main event because, and he explained to us in a way that there's a when the sun heats up this water, they're going to come out and feed at what is it, sun, when the sun goes down,
Sunset.
sunset. So they're going to feed really heavy around this time. So this is once we pull in, and this is how we're going to work this area. I think a couple times I kind of like, I'm so used to waiting fast and going in. Is, oh, whoa, whoa, slow down. You got to go slow. You don't want to spook the fish. I didn't realize that until we worked all the way up there when he was talking about like, oh, because we were on a sand mixture mainly, and we worked our way towards a sand mud and then a mud mixture, like where it's just straight mud or just mud, not a mixture, but just a mud bottom. So doing that, we were catching fish the rest of the day. I ended up with we ended up with 10 over slots, between all of us, and just a whole bunch of 3 to 4 pounders. Um, and it was almost every cast we're just throwing, hooking up. We had triples, doubles, quadruples. We're just bowing up, catching trout and all the way till the sun went down, and that was a cool experience. So when we were working our way in, that's when I was feeling the bottom on my feet, and I was like, "Oh crap!" So another thing I should have done is first had a 16th amount. I kept the same 1/8 jig head with the loop inside, the jig head and the loop knot, and I was still catching fish. My buddy Thad caught a nice, I think it was a 28, 29, 28, 28 incher. He caught a 28 incher, or 29. If he's here, he'll correct me. Um, and that was a nice trout. He got and that made the whole trip. That one big trout that he caught. If I were to go back, I would have changed to a 16th of an ounce, or I would have threw my fat boy. And I had my fat boy in my pocket, but I was just so used to casting and just didn't want to stop just to cut the line, tie the fat boy on and throw it out there. Because if they like that slow presentation, that 16th of an ounce presentation, I'm pretty confident throwing that fat boy out there would have yielded a huge trout, like for sure. So it crossed my mind that when I walked in the boat, and I was like, I told the guy this is the BS I was throwing, and he looked at me like, "What the hell is this?" I was like, "I was catching fish on it," but in my mind, in my mind, I feel like I would have yielded bigger fish and I would have yielded more fish if I wasn't just changed the pattern or changed the presentation. And that's something that I learned from that trip. And then I also learned that like the way the weather works there, and the way he kind of knew that like how that weather and the heating up of the sun, because of what it wasn't overhead. It was a cold day and the sun was out, but he knew that it was going to heat up this mud flat in this mud and sand mixture that these trout were going to feed from for the rest of the daybreak, or was day not daybreak, sunset. So that's something that I've learned on that trip. And then I just like he's definitely up there, one of the favorite guides that I like to fish with. Um, I want to say it reminded me of the same trip that we took with Chad Peterick. But Chad Peterick, we might have caught more 4 or 5 pounders, and I caught that 29 and 3/4 inch trout. So I caught bigger trout with Chad Peterick, but Chad just kind of knew exactly what to do, how to do it, explained how we do it. But it was two different styles, but kind of like this, the quantity of fish and just staying on fish all day. But we only fished with Chad probably like maybe 10 hours, 8 hours, or 10 hours. And then with Colton, or yeah, Colton, we started a little bit late. I think we started at like 10 o'clock, but we fished all the way like till sundown. So it was pretty cool. Um, and I guess his plan was, let's wait till the sun starts heating up these flats, then we'll start catching fish.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's kind of important, especially during these winter times, that you don't have to go out early in the morning. um, those afternoon trips after it's warmed up a bit. Not only are the fish a little bit more active sometimes, but also it's a little more bearable because I'm sometimes you're out there before the sun comes up and it's 28 degrees outside. But if you wait a little bit longer, it'll be nice nice and chilly 40 degrees or something like that, you know?
Man, so I gear up pretty well where like weather doesn't really stop me from fishing.
Yeah.
So I got these like I got gear for underneath, like I got some thermos underneath, and then I got a shirt that like regulates my body temperature, and then after that I got a jacket over that, and then I'll have waders but underneath the waders. I also have thermos on, and then maybe a pair of sweatpants. So like in cold weather, like I have a video with the ice on my beard, and we're out me and my buddy Juan were out there fishing. Which Juan went on this trip too. He caught him some pretty nice fish too. It was me and my buddy Juan, Thad, and I know I'm forgetting somebody else. Oh, Nick. Yeah, me and Nick. Nick Martin. How could I forget him? We go everywhere together. So, and we all caught really good fish. We all caught 4 or 5 pounders, and so overall it was a great trip. Recommend you if you book a guide. You know, Chad Peterick, Colton Blackwell. Those are pretty well known guides, and then they'll put you on fish. They know their stuff.
Yeah.
It's not one of sometimes you get you go on these trips and then you get excuses from guides. I hear that a lot, and you know I know fishing's fishing, but I feel like if you go with a guide and you don't catch, and if it's a tough day, it's a rough day. I feel like as a guide, when I used to guide, I would try to make it up to people. If we had a bad day, like maybe we caught 1, 2 fish, I'm like, hey man, let me make it up to you. Let's try this other day, or let's try a night fishing trip, and we go catch a boatload of fish, and people pay you to catch fish, and maybe I'm biased on that, but what do you think, Jonathan?
Well, no, I think as long as they have a good time, I think as long as I have a good time, I'm happy. Obviously, catching fish is part of that, but also if it's a very informative trip, there's been a couple trips where I don't catch as much as I expect if I wanted to, but in the end, it's all right because they're just I learned a lot, you know.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point. Yeah, I like it. Like if you're not catching a lot, but they're giving you a lot of information, for sure. I like those too. Yeah, it is what it
yeah.
is.
So I guess one thing that I was thinking about when you're saying that you wanted a 1/16 ounce or with a corky, for me when I'm fishing grass, I really like throwing the corky devil, um, just because it's just basically it's almost like having a 1/16 ounce jig head, but just a super large profile. It darts around, um, and it's really interesting to see because sometimes if you I think the corky for me it's the fat boys they sink a little bit too quickly. Excuse me, but with the corky devil, you could work it so that basically it stays right below the surface. And especially during the summer, you can sometimes see those trout just come up and yeah, I use it a lot over in like Sea Isle or towards San Luis Pass, and you see, and it's mainly pink. So you see this pink devil just swimming around, and all of a sudden it just disappears because a trout just comes up and smacks it and hails
So
it.
so the fat boy that I had was the slow suspending one. I mean, you have to wait. It barely goes down.
Yeah,
It doesn't sink. The one that I had wasn't the Pro Series one that sinks fast. It was more the one that I forgot which one it's called, that just drops real slow.
yeah.
That's why
Was it the
I really
floater?
wanted it. Huh? Is it? It was no. It drops, but it
Okay.
drops like at a like you're like in 4 feet of water for it to hit the bottom 20, 25 seconds maybe. I mean, it drops slow.
Hmm.
Maybe not 20, 25, maybe like 10 seconds.
Yeah,
It just drops really slow. Put it like this: when we went to the first spot, there was a little bit of current. That sucker never sank. It just stayed on top of the water. It never went down in a higher current. Like it just stayed there on top. And I was like, well, this is no good. So that's when I changed it out to that other lure. And then I just stuck to that one because it was literally just on top of the water. Um, but lesson learned being, don't be
yeah,
so lazy and change.
yeah.
Don't be
I think
lazy. Change your profile.
that's like kind of a common theme too. um, but that's just I think. from a fisherman's perspective, we are all set in our ways in some ways.
Yeah.
Um, but the reason why we do things the way we do it is because we have different experiences. Um, and the reason why we fish the way we do is because we all based upon our previous experience. This is why I'm fishing. I'll go to these areas and I'm fishing with top waters, or I like this condition compared to this. But like again, if you go to that same spot, you have a different way to fish it because you have different experiences. Um, but also, it's good to be flexible sometimes with the way that you think and approach things.
Yeah. For sure. Hey, Kyle, is that true about the page? I hope that's not true. I don't know if it was a joke or what. If you guys are calling that page or calling it quits and stuff like that. Y'all have done a lot for the kayak community, and I hate to see you guys go. Um,
Yeah.
like some more insight. Go ahead.
Yes. Speaking of that, if you haven't heard, unfortunately, the Saltwater Survival Series, it will not be happening this year or maybe ever again. I don't know. Um, they unfortunately they've I know there's a myriad of reasons, and then you don't have to go. They don't have to tell us why. And they're all great people. So, but unfortunately, there looks like the Saltwater Survival Series is no more for now, which is sad because it's one of my favorite tournaments here in Galveston. So,
My favorite tournament as well. Yeah.
yeah, if you ever fished it,
Yeah, I did from the get go. I wish I'd have fished it more with Daniel and them took over it. It's just life,
yeah,
business has caught
yeah,
up to me. But I still got some cool little trophies from the the tournaments and you'll pick up your baits and run to your spot. Everyone jumps on their vehicle and burns off and comes back to weigh-ins. Those were
yeah.
the
I only got one trophy, and I'm trying to build upon that. So,
yeah, Kyle. I'm kind of the same way right now. You know, kids and work, kids are in sports business is picking up and it's been tough for me. I totally get it, man. But I think I'm gonna have to cut off some work there, trim off some work, and I got to get back out there. I want to
yeah.
fish. I want to fish a lot more.
So one of the things that yeah, I know I don't think we kind of mentioned that you're kind of fishing that King Ranch area. One of the well-known facts about that area, I don't think it gets a lot of tidal movement. Uh, is that true? Or am I thinking of somewhere else?
I don't. I thought that was the Matagorda, lower Laguna, or not Matagorda, Baffin Bay,
Okay. Okay. So
right?
I'll scratch.
Because I don't think
Yeah.
King Ranch is that. It's kind of like midway between those two, but I still think that you still have Corpus is not too far from there, you know?
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'll scratch that question just because I'm not familiar with that area. Um, so like King Ranch, if you look up online King Ranch, you'll see tons of guides who've posted giant trout that come from there. Um, and so I guess for those of us who've never fished there before, what are we looking at in terms of like the ground, the layout? Is it all sand? Is it mud? Is it grass? Shell?
All all of the above. They have all of that. So I fished a lot of Baffin more than I have King Ranch. I fished King Ranch maybe 10 or so times. I fished Baffin like double, triple that. Both places they have a little bit of everything. So there's some spots they have a whole bunch of rocks, and to me, I've seen more trout in that area than I've seen anywhere else. Like literally running through my legs, around me, running through, and that was a good experience. I fished that with Daniel Land. Um, Never forget that trip. Really good guy. Caught a ton of fish with that dude. Um, but it has rocks, mud bottom, sand, mud bottom, grass, um, a couple scattered shell reefs places we fished because I remember stepping on them with my boots. It has everything. It has a structure where there's like flats and then mini guts, and or structures, and then just like a bowl somewhere, like just a pit, like of that drops from 4 feet to 7, 8 feet. Um, so it has a little bit of everything in there.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think you know, it's funny because a lot of the Kyle's saying there's lots of rocks, trout everywhere. Robert is saying it's grass. So
there's
uh,
Yeah, there's both. There's
yeah, it's both. Yeah.
yeah, there's both. Um, a lot of grass though. There's definitely a lot of grass for sure. Which is good, right? Trout love a lot of grass. Um, yeah, makes me want to go back.
Yeah, I kind of wish the grass over in our, in Galveston would come back because I know there's not as much as there used to be.
Mm-mm. No, no. It's coming back, but it's not like I remember. Remember, we used to walk on that south shoreline
Yeah,
by the lighthouse, and
yeah.
your legs are just going through all this grass, getting tangled. You couldn't even throw a top water because you're like, I need to put single hooks on because I'm gonna get grass on it. Yeah, it's those are not issues. Now I know it's growing back in some places. I know there's some decent grass growing back by the watermans. Those, but I don't know if you can fish those areas because I think it's an estuary
Which area?
by watermans where the islands are at.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you can fish it as long as you can get to it. You can fish it.
All right.
So
Anyways, but yeah, they're starting to get some grass back there. There's some spots getting grass back. I know the North Shoreline we're starting to get some more grass. Is it like it used to be? No,
yeah,
but hopefully, hopes for the future. I know we have a ton of bait this year, more bait than last year. Um, we'll see how that flushes out. I'm pretty sure most of it flushed out, but I'm still seeing a whole bunch of bait um, that hung around. We'll see what that does. If that, you know, yields us better fish. The new rules and regulations definitely seeing higher quality fish being caught. I'm definitely seeing more trout for sure. So I think this new regulations helping. Um, what do you
I
think?
I still think it remains to be seen. You know, it'll probably take a couple seasons for us to see, for us to get a good representation of what's actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just want, I really miss just all that grass, Sea Isle, the lighthouse over by, even towards Stanley Pass on the Freeport side. There used to be just so much grass over there. Actually, whenever pedo kayaks came on the market, you had Hobie and like Native. And I remember a couple native guys. We were kayaking out
Slayer,
there.
the
Yeah, yeah,
Slayer.
the Propel or something, whatever it was.
Yeah,
Um, and with the prop drive, and it was water was so low, they couldn't use their pedal. They couldn't use it because there was so much grass being,
yeah,
going through there. Whereas with the Hobie, you could just flutter kick and
yeah.
go. Um, so I just remember that being there's so much grass over there. After you fish the guts out, on the pass along the way back, you can fish that grass or you can pick up your redfish.
Right.
Um,
They love that
and
area. That was a well-known
oh
spot.
yeah,
Spot. Just that grass line right there before
yeah,
it comes out was the spot for redfish for sure. Yeah.
yeah. I remember. It was an outgoing tide over at San Luis Pass, and we were coming back in, and I was on the Revo, and I stood up just to kind of stretch a little bit before we got there, and I saw the grass, and it was like Florida water because it was, you probably had like 6 inches of water, and the grass was underneath it, and it was just super clear, and you could see it with every single every single time the wind picked up, the grass kind of waves a little bit, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" And then you see a pothole, and there's literally like a 25-inch redfish is sitting in it,
Mm.
and I'm like, "Oh, there's a redfish right there." Got my rod out, made a cast, and it was like textbook. You hit outside the pothole, bring it in, it kind of flutters down, and the redfish just flares its gills and just sucks it in, and I'm like, redfish on.
Nice.
Um, and I haven't seen that since, and that was like probably 2013, 2014 time frame. So
Yeah, it's gonna be a while for it to get to that point again. I
yeah,
think that's gonna take a couple seasons. But I feel like the Trout are adapting because
well they
like
have to.
right. It's like they're not sticking around those grass things because there is no grass, so like it's more structured. We're catching them a lot around a lot more structure than those areas because they don't have any grass or protection.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, Curtis is reminding us of that one of our wade trips that we took. I think it was Memorial Day. And it was funny because we got there and there was so many people out there because of the holiday weekend. So we
Mhm.
decided it was a low tide. We decided that we were going to go and wade across the gut to get to one of the guts like further out from San Luis Pass, and it was the best decision ever because we got out there and it was just nonstop top water action until like noon. um, Jay was like pointing out to be like, "Oh, there's a fish right there, cast over there, top water, blow up." You know, yeah. Oh, there should be a fish right here because there's like a PVC pole sticking up. There'll be fish hanging around it. Cast over there, blow up. Um, and it was really interesting to see. That's actually the first time I saw um two redfish and a trout fight over my top water lure because the water is so clear. They're just casting out there. I got a pop or a pop, and then as I got closer, like, oh, there's a freaking trout and a redfish just sitting under there looking at it. So,
Mhm.
um,
Hey, quick question to Ruben. Ruben, should we start fishing this tournament? Me and Ruben are in a tournament. We haven't turned any fish yet, so we're just like, yeah, we'll probably fish the last week of, see how we do.
oh, is it an online tournament?
It's an online tournament, yes, yeah. But
What's the your is it trout or redfish or any fish?
I think it's like trout fish and redfish.
Okay.
Um, but I think you have to be 28 inches on the red and then 20 inches on the trout, and then I guess one over for both. But yeah, I might go out one of these nights, catch a couple decent ones just to put them on the. You give them hell last week. Yeah, we'll do that. Let's just do that. We'll plan for the last week and we'll just see what we can come up with. uh, Ruben's from check him out at 956. Love those guys down south. I love their tournaments that they throw. They're competitive. Lot of kayak fishermen down there and people that participate and want to do stuff. And I enjoy watching those guys. Yeah, so check them out. 956 anglers. I think it's 956. Help me out there. Put a drop for your group, Ruben, there for me, and people sponsoring it, whatnot. But yep,
And I want to go over and fish that King Ranch now, especially
yeah,
like all that structure and
man, dude. I so like I feel like King Ranch and Baffin, like it's so much area to fish. Like there's a lot of those areas that like can be replicated and other like there's so much shoreline and you can literally find the same amount of fish or same fish down a different point, a different part. Like you don't have to be on top of each other. Um, I've never had issues where we're on top of other anglers fishing with these different guides in Baffin and King Ranch. Nine
yeah.
five six kayak anglers. Yep.
And actually, that reminds me. So, Jay and I were talking this past week after the tournament, and there's a lot of new rock structure that's been put up over towards San Luis Pass, towards the North Shoreline.
Yes.
Um, so,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Man, dude, they got some areas, and I don't think like those structures that they dropped in the water. I I don't think they're at their potential yet, but I think like fishes are going to catch on, and it's a good ambush spot. Like, why wouldn't you? If I was a fish, I would love it when the bait drops out past those rock berries that they put out, or
yeah,
those once they pass through those. I mean, I would want to be a fish and have easy meals when that water drops back down below on going towards the channel side. Um, and then some that are being dropped on the other side as well. But yes, I seen those firsthand.
Yeah. Looking forward to that potentially this summer, just as we start migrating uh, back towards Galveston. Right now, kind of focusing on the Upper Galveston Bay, and I'll probably stick around there for at least mid March, especially now that we have another cold front coming through tonight. Actually, projected some areas to get down into the upper 20s, as in like 29, 28. So not anything prolonged, so we're not having to worry about any freezes or anything like that.
Good.
But
Yeah, I was going to say it's one of those short temperature drops, but comes not enough to affect the water temperature
yeah,
to drop and stay that low. It'll come back up, be back in the 50s.
yeah. I just know that I went out there before the last freeze, um, and just did really, really, and I say freeze, it right before it snowed for us, which is a rare occurrence. But we just hammered the redfish, and hopefully looking forward to a situation like that again. But I just don't have time, and also the conditions are not the same. Um, Looking at fairly high winds up until the weekend, I think. So we'll see. We'll see. Uh, so Meryl, we're you know, I guess one thing I wanted to ask you is that what tournaments are going to be fishing this year, because I have no idea what I'm going to be doing without the saltwater survival series.
Man, I don't know either. I might fish some that the one that Mike Morales throws at a
Oh,
classic. What is it? Blue
the
water.
well, no, it's no longer the Hobie owners tournament. I think everybody could fish it now.
Oh yeah, he's changed. So originally there was this. It was called
The
there was one before.
The
There was
Del
something before
Rey,
that. Well, that's the
yeah.
one Mike threw, but there was one before Mike called the Blue Water Classic or something.
Hmm.
And I think some guy out of Florida used to host that. Now he just does it in Florida.
Hmm.
But then Mike Morales, hey, look, let's keep this going, and he took over and did the Hobie thing or Del Rey. Um, but yeah, I might want to fish that one.
Yeah.
What
If
about other than that? I mean, so Curtis for Ride the Bull, I might sponsor some cabins, maybe two of them next to each other, and then if a group wants to go, then we'll get a good group to go. Maybe something with the backyard for people with tents that like to camp out in tents or something. Um, and then we'll probably sponsor that. Maybe we'll see. The only thing that gets me about Ride the Bull is it's right in hurricane season down there in Florida. Just loves hurricanes for some reason, and it always ends up getting canceled, and or you know, it's always a hurricane issue. But we'll play by ear.
yeah, but
But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that I know that that tournament is always it's always been like that, but it always seems like a lot of fun. Uh, Even whenever they have like they move around and they have the cancel and whatever.
Yeah, man, dude, I love fishing that back marsh area where they hosted at in Grand Isle. Dude, so much fish. Um, it's definitely not a boring. I mean, just bring water with you because I forgot to load water in my kayak, so I had to trade some redfish for some water. uh, that was pretty cool though.
So besides tournaments, what are we looking forward to? Look, we're in the
Yeah,
middle.
The Brian Barrera fishing trip, um, and then maybe if maybe another guide maybe in between that one, and then other than that, and I don't know, man. We'll see what the tournament scene shows. I might just pop up in a couple of them here and there. I want to be involved, like Matagorda, the kayak fishing group. Like
Mhm.
they always host some pretty decent tournament. I might pop up at one of those and fish those, or I might make a trip down south with Ruben and see if I could jump on one of those tournaments and go out there and give it a shot. But I definitely want to be a little bit more active this year, for sure.
Yeah, I was asking about what are we, it's the middle of February right now. What are you looking forward to in upcoming February, March, just in general for fishing?
Say that again.
It's the middle of February right now, and as what are we looking forward to in terms of fishing for February and March?
Oh, big trout. Still catching big trout. Still big trout season. So I definitely got to get out there and have some fun.
Yep.
Oh, somebody posted some questions. That's what I was reading.
Yeah, it's like with the end of the Saltwater Survival Series. What do y'all recommend I fish as a redfish guy? The only other one I can think of right now is probably the GRS. You can fish it out of your kayak. I don't think they're going to have a kayak division, but they're if you're on the redfish, it wouldn't matter. You can fish out of your kayak and show up those powerboat guys.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
um, from a
Until they
kayak
start crying and then they make a kayak division again.
from a
uh,
kayak perspective, I there's not really right now a kayak specific tournament that we have right now.
oh, there's
Um,
that one that that guy throws. It's
yeah, that
elite, the elite kayak.
yeah, there is yeah, they do have that, the elite kayak series, the elite fishing series. They do have that. I do know that they have limited spots, so I don't know how they hand out spots. Um, oh yeah, the Redfish Rumble. That's I think that's based out of. Well, no, they have it. They have it up and down the coast. So the Redfish Rumble is also a good one. The Elite Series, that one has limited spots, so I don't know how you get get a spot in that. Um, but yeah, I'm hoping that some of them pop up and I can have an opportunity to fish them. Uh,
Sounds like you still got the blues about the SSS series, saltwater survival series. Seems like you got the blues about it. Like, man, what else is there to do?
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. So the inshore fisherman is saying he did the Matagorda kayak fishing tournament. And and you fish for the is it the Toy for Tots? Yeah, the Toy for Tots at the end of the year. Yeah, the Toy for Tots one was a good one as well. So
Yeah,
um, I know Chris had a lot of stuff going on this year, so it wasn't as big as it formerly was. Hopefully, this year it's bigger and better than ever. So um, yeah, I'm I'm just sad. Just
yeah,
the Saltwater Survival Series was great. So
yeah, yeah. We'll survive. You know, we should do a meetup, Jonathan. Like we probably need to sit down and go over it. Like maybe do a meetup with all the listeners, give some giveaways, do a fishing trip or something. I know Martin Sosa was talking about doing a crawfish boil maybe for DSKA. So maybe like a DSKA and uh, our podcast kind of bit. Do a little get together,
yeah. Well,
hang out.
we'll bring it offline and we'll figure it out. We have a lot to discuss, so
Okay.
we'll put that in the works. I mean, that's kind of always been in the works. I know a lot of people have been asking for that, so we'll talk about it. Um, but before we let you guys go, I definitely want to give another shout out to our sponsor, Knocking Tail Lures. If you missed the Houston Fishing Show, Michael's come out with some great stuff. The Knocking Tail Lures with the TPE plastic, as well as the shrimp, as well and popping cork. If you're looking for those lures, look out for them sometime March, I believe he said. But if you just want to get your hands on the Knocking Tail Lures right now, go to knockingtaillures.com and search up those things. They're just amazing soft plastics. Also, like Merrill mentioned, Dirty South Kayak Anglers. If you're looking for a kayak fishing group, talk kayaking fishing up and down the Texas coast, search up DSKA or Dirty South Kayak Anglers on Facebook and find that. Also, 4A Printing. If you're looking for custom gear, merch, or towels or anything like that, Aaron will take care of you. Search up 4A Printing on Facebook and reach out to him. Also, Brittany Selesky, if you're looking for commercial or residential real estate here in Houston, reach out to her at 281-740-0498 or brittanyselesky@gmail.com. And, we'll be on the lookout for tournaments. If you have a tournament that's coming up or in the future, especially if it's kayak related, reach out to us. We'll be happy to kind of tell people. There's a big hole in my heart right now where Saltwater Survival Series used to be, and I'm hoping to fill that at some point. Good luck to you, the inshore outdoorsman. He looks like he's fishing in the morning. It's going to be rough out there. I believe that front's pulling through tonight, so definitely good luck out there. Be safe. Meryl, I know I like to put you on the spot. Any parting words of wisdom before we sign off for tonight?
Yeah, don't do what I did. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no. You know, if you have if you have that instinct to change your presentation, do it. You know, sometimes you get set in your ways, and I mean, I caught a lot of fish, right? But I would have yielded more fish. I am 100% confident I'd yielded more fish if I would changed my presentation. So yeah, just don't be like me. Change your lures.
Be flexible.
Yeah, be flexible. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yes. All right, guys. This has been the One Last Cast podcast. If you have any questions or want to reach out to us, you can find us online at onelastcastpodcast.com or at onelastcastpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and y'all guys have a good one. Tight lines.